Hello friends, and welcome back to Enterprise Architecture. Now today I get to talk about one of my favorite topics in Satisfactory, mods. I don't think a lot of content creators really are into mods. Everybody has been playing a lot of vanilla, and lately, since Satisfactory 1.0 has come out, mods have been broken for a while. So as a result, not many people were using them anyway. But as of this past week, Satisfactory Mod Manager has been updated, and we do have a decent number of mods that are available. So today I'm going to tell you all about the mods that you need to download to get the most fun out of your Satisfactory playthrough. Now today I'm also going to be covering, in addition to the mods that are working, I am going to tell you about some mods that aren't working yet, but are in the works. These are mods that I've used in previous versions of Satisfactory and are absolute must-haves to download, but you're just gonna have to wait a little while, but I'm gonna give you a list of them anyway so that you can add them to your bookmarks to check out later on. So with no further ado, let's dive right in. So to start, let's talk about the basic gameplay and quality of life mods. These are ones that I consider essential. They should be part of the base game, but are not, and honestly, I will not play Satisfactory without them. I've actually been taking a break from Satisfactory because these weren't available, because it's just not worth playing to me unless I can do this sort of thing. So we're going to talk about a pair to start, and that is Infinite Nudge and Infinite Zoop. Both of these are by Sir Digby, and these are some of my absolute most important mods to use these days. Infinite Zoop does exactly what you would expect it to by the name. You can take any block that you normally would only be able to zoop 10 of in a single direction, and you can go as far as you want, and now you can also zoop those in 2 directions. So you can make large walls, you can make large foundations very, very easily, and it works just like normal. Just builds those straight down, and now you have giant platforms. This is essential, folks. You really, really don't want to have to zoop out large platforms 10 foundations at a time. Have to use Infinite Zoop. The other mod, of course, is Infinite Nudge. Now, in the base game, you can nudge over blocks by a set number of increments. Basically, I think you can move them over by 8 meters or 1 foundation in either direction. What this adds is a variety of abilities to move way past that single foundation distance. I can go as many meters in any direction as I want with my nudging. The most important feature I would say here is you can also start nudging things up and down. I don't know why this isn't in the base game. This is such a critically important thing to be able to move things around, but this mod, Infinite Nudge, gives you that ability. Now, it also has a couple of really, really incredible features that I have to recommend. One of those is that you can have alternative amounts that you can move things over. So by holding Control, I can move things over a small amount. You can customize these amounts as well, by the way. So I've got mine set to move over by 1/4 of a meter when I'm holding Control. So 4 of those to move a full meter. That allows you to nicely center things. Similarly, you can do that vertically by 1/4 of a meter. The alternative here is by holding the Alt key, I can move things over the way I've got it set by 4 meters at a time. So basically half a foundation. That makes it really nice for getting things moved over very, very quickly at far distances. In addition to your normal rotations, oh, finally friends, yes, you can rotate this in all axes. So you can turn things on their side. This is really, really powerful, especially for those of us that like to do all sorts of, ordinarily they would be game-breaking things with like tilting windows and walls and whatnot. So I can take my windows, I can have them be at nice angles, and I can build off those. So that makes things look really cool. I love this feature. I use it all of the time in my builds, and you can't do this in the vanilla game at all, but these do save. If you put these in a blueprint, these rotations will save as part of that blueprint, and you can load them into a vanilla game with no additional work. So highly recommended. This is an amazing mod. Next on our list is going to be Daisy Chain Everything. This is a very simple mod that lets you configure the number of attachment points on all of your machines. So rather than having to do one machine to a power pole as we normally do, this same old pattern, what we can do instead is connect that machine to another machine and another machine and another machine. Or we can use that machine to connect to, well, all of the machines that we've got. I have this set right now and configured to have 10 different connections per machine, and you can actually configure this to set it however you want, but this makes it really quick and easy to set up factories by chaining all of your machines together without having to run all of those extra power poles or attachment points. So highly recommended. Again, this is a wonderful, wonderful mod. Next up, let's talk about Real Arachnophobia Mode by Aquila Industrial. Now, you're going to hear that name a lot. He is one of the most prolific mod authors around. He's just got dozens and dozens of mods he's created, but this one I am particularly fond of. In the base game, you can turn on Arachnophobia Mode so that spiders turn into these weird cat-like things and make horrible noises. His mod just removes all spiders from the game altogether. As someone who is not especially fond of spiders, this is a major life improvement. So there's not much to show here because, as you can see, there are no spiders. Again, this is a great mod if you are not a fan of the creepy crawlies, just like myself. So let's talk about a few mods that are life upgrade mods that are not quite available yet, but I expect will be available in the near future. First and foremost, we have to talk about Smart Mod. Smart Mod was one of the old mods that allowed you to do basically what you saw with the infinite Zoop that I just showed you, where you can lay down a large number of foundations all at once. But it also works with machines, meaning laying out a whole row of constructors, assemblers, whatever you want, only takes a second. And the best part about Smart Mod is, back in the old days, before the mods all broke, it would also connect up all of your belts for you with whatever tier of belt you had unlocked at that point. So you could just lay down an entire infrastructure in seconds. It was amazing. So keep an eye out for Smart Mod. I also want to mention Rearchitector. Rearchitector built on an older mod called Micromanage that allows you to take objects and rescale them in addition to moving them around the way we can with Infinite Nudge. It's a really flexible mod, and I especially love it because you can take existing items and make them very large or very small to fit into spaces better. One great example of that I used to use all of the time is with these corner outer extensions. These things are only a quarter of a foundation big. These should probably be much bigger to be able to connect up outer edges. With Rearchitector or with Micromanage, you could take these and scale them up so they fill up the entire space here. You could make them a full foundation big, or you could shrink them smaller if you wanted, and that made it very nicely for decorations. So highly recommended. Keep an eye out for Rearchitector. Similar to what you can do with Smart Mod and machines, there is another mod called Blueprint Zooper. This one works exactly as you would expect. You could just zoop blueprints down. So that's another one that you're gonna want to keep an eye on. It really makes mass building of things with blueprints really quick and easy. Highly recommended. Again, should be in the base game, but isn't. I also need to mention two other quality of life mods by the Curium team. One is going to be the Ficsit Blueprint extensions. All this does is give you higher tier blueprint machines so that you can build much larger blueprints. I've used this extensively in last season's builds to build some truly huge mega factories in a box. That works really well for reusability. Highly recommended. The other one of their mods I really want to point to as well is more Swatch slots. By default, you only get a very small number of custom swatches you can use, just 18. For those of us that are very prolific in our color palettes, this gives us a lot more to play with. You can basically add an infinite number of custom swatches. So keep an eye out for more swatch slots as well. Before we move on to decorations, just a note that we do have that lovely subscribe button below there that you can use if you want to get more content like this. I do play a lot of Satisfactory and a lot of Minecraft, so feel free to subscribe. And if you like the content in this video, please do hit that like button. It really helps me out a lot. And we do have the brand new Discord where we're always talking about modded Satisfactory, modded Minecraft, and just generally hanging out and having a good time. So you can grab that link in the description below as well. Now, on to my favorite topic, decoration mods. Now, I do a lot of design on this channel. That's one of my favorite things to do is design and build. So we are going to talk about a couple of mods that I consider to be just the best when it comes to doing decorative, interesting architecture designs. The first one we have to talk about is structural solutions. This mod has a whole plethora of different options for you for building. Now, the main thing that structural solutions adds that I am a huge fan of is these concrete blocks, and I love these because you can actually paint them properly. In the base game of Satisfactory, as many of us know, when you paint a foundation white, well, that's white. That's as white as it gets. When you paint something in structural solutions white, it becomes actual white. It works the same on any other color that you add as well. You want this yellow here? Well, it's vaguely yellow here, but on this, it's bright yellow. So these paintable concrete pieces in structural solutions, it's just the best. It is one of my all-time favorite things. and it really changes the game. Now, I know you can get some bright colors by playing with it and tweaking these color settings here. Like you can go into your customizer and you can edit this swatch, and then you can make these go to like a deeper saturation. I think this typically works. You can do stuff like this and try and then paint it, and that will give you a blue, but that doesn't work for every single color. That only works for some colors. There's some gaps there. So again, the concrete that Structural Solutions gives you, I think, is really, really nice and helps you make really, really beautiful builds with really interesting colors. The other thing that this adds is some lovely additional bits here. These frames, I am a huge fan of. They just look really neat. You get some really cool looking frame pillars, and again, you can see we can zoop those as well. All sorts of neat bits and bobs there. And of course, down here we get some really nice additional doors and walls as well. These glass walls are just amazing. Now, they do still have that weird, icky texture that a lot of the glass has in this game, but they do look really good from a distance and can help add to a build. And last, I do want to show off some very nice metal floor gratings that it adds that I've used in a bunch of my builds. This is a nice little bit as well. So highly recommended. Structural Solutions, check it out. So this next mod, I consider a design mod, but I really think it falls in between a quality of life mod and a design mod, and that is Aquila's wall holes. These conveyor wall holes can be placed absolutely anywhere. By default in Satisfactory, you only have very limited options for where wall holes go for your conveyor belts, but now you can place these just about anywhere that you might need and connect through to the other side. It works fine, and any type of belt will work with them. I especially like to use these because you can remove the walls afterwards, and this gives you a lovely connection point for any other architecture pieces that you want to set up. So for instance, if I wanted to wrap pillars around this, I could do that and then still have this lovely wall hole right here to connect to with no trouble. So it just gives you a nice little attachment point, and that could be a really nice little design element as well. They look really sharp. And while we're mentioning Aquila again, let's talk about Aquila's decorations and more decorations. Those are a pair of packs that give you a variety of options to make your builds look really sharp. The base pack gives you all of these wonderful, wonderful trees and vegetation. So basically any item in the game that currently exists as a rock, a tree, whatever it happens to be, is now a buildable. You can place it in the game and put it wherever you want. You want a cliff there? Great. Now you've got a cliff there. You want to remove the cliff? You can remove the cliff as well. So those decorations can really help texture out a build. I use this a lot in like the forest areas where I'll frequently have to cut down the whole forest to do my building, and then I want to put some like trees back up. So I will go in here and I will grab a bunch of those and just start throwing them down wherever I think looks nice, and that will give me a lovely little factory that looks like it was intentionally built right there in the forest. The More Decorations pack gives you even more factory bits and pieces that you can add. All sorts of things to help you decorate and make it look like it's a real factory. So you want some office chairs? You've got some office chairs. You can throw these down. I don't think you can sit in them, but they look nice. It also has some nice science fiction-y looking pieces here that you can add in, a couple of animated pieces, all sorts of things to really make your factories feel much more thoughtful and as if it's a real factory. So highly recommended you check those out. There's some really nice pieces in here that I try to sneak into some of my builds. These sci-fi crates I think look really good, for instance. All sorts of really interesting pieces that you can add. And while we're talking about Aquila's wonderful decorative mods, he's got a bunch of others that you should really check out. They're not must-haves for me, but I still think they're great. And those include the Upside-Bound Foundations pack that you can see here that basically gives you all sorts of interesting colored walls and bits that are in different orientations. These can be nicely added to a pack, but frequently I'm just going to use Structural Solutions instead. When I'm not, this is the one I'm going to go to. He also has a Mirrored Buildings pack that basically takes all of the base game buildings and has a reverse version of them with the inputs on the opposite side. And of course there's More Beams and Pillars, which is another nice mod that gives you emissive beams, interesting other colored pillars. It's a really nice decorative mod as well to check out. So add those to your list. Now, similar to his More Decorations pack, there is another mod called Factory Props that gives you more things that you can place down and have all around your base. Some of these are ones that are in the base game, like these crashed ship pieces that you can use. You can't build these, but they're certainly laying around. Those can be really nice to add to a build, but there's all sorts of other things in here. Basically anything you could possibly think of. It's basically around, and you can then add these. And again, these look very much like Satisfactory pieces, so it's going to make it look consistent with the rest of your world. Many of them were taken directly from the Satisfactory models, so that can be really, really nice and helpful. So again, the Factory Props mod. It also has all of these lovely bits and pieces, which are items that are already in the game, and you can just place them down as buildable. So you want a Mercer sphere there that's going to be permanent. That's a nice way to do it without spending an actual Mercer sphere. Now, I do want to mention one decorative mod that I don't know if it will ever be updated, but is one of my all-time favorites, and that is Really Simple Signs. Basically, it expands the base game signs to a variety of new signs, and they are extensively customizable. In addition to the normal customizations you can do on signs that come in the base game, it also allows you to upload your own custom images, and that can be really, really neat if you want to put signs on the floor or on a wall and make them look like an interactive console. If you want to make your own inspirational signs, I did that in a previous build, and actually I think it still appears in my Satisfactory header there that's on my channel, one of my custom signs I used with RSS2. All of these things were really, really great, and I hope that they do consider updating it. I've seen in the chat that it doesn't look like they're going to do it anytime in the near future, if at all, but do keep an eye out in case they do decide to update Really Simple Signs, one of my favorites. Alright, so the next few mods are definitely Content Edition mods. It's more than what's in the base game, it expands considerably what's there, and if you remove them, something could actually break. So just be careful when you're using these mods. I have used them for years, so I do recommend them and say that they are trustworthy and worth checking out, even if it does break between updates. It depends on how you play the game, but I'm still going to recommend them to you because they're some of my absolute favorites. First, let's talk about linear motion. Linear motion adds a series of elevators. Basically, you can put these down in any factory, and you can then go between floors in an easy way. Now, there's no power to this right now, but if there were power, I could go in here and add as many floors as I want, put them at any level I want, and then just be able to go up and down between these floors. So this works really, really nicely. There's 3 marks of elevator that go up to different heights, all the way up, I think, to 500 meters and 20 floors for this. There's also 2 other styles of elevators that you can add to it. These are catwalk sized, smaller lifts that work very nicely with your existing catwalks. These are really helpful. And most importantly, one of my favorites, there is a giant, huge vehicle lift. This allows you to move your various trucks and whatnot up to additional floors, and it just looks super, super cool. So I used this a lot in Season 1. This is one of my absolute favorite mods for being able to get up and down floors, because let's be frank, climbing up all of those rows and rows of stairs is no fun, especially before you have unlocked all of the hover pack and other options to get up and down. So this one is really nice. I love the linear motion mod. Getting back to Aquila's mods, let's talk about fluid sync and more. This adds a variety of additional pipe additions here, additional junctions, all sorts of mini storage things that you could use, but most importantly for me, it includes this block, the fluid sync. It does exactly what it sounds like it does. You can pipe any sort of fluid in here and it will just magically disappear from your game, and you no longer have to manage it. If you want to be a little bit cheaty and don't want to have to deal with the secondary output of water or other fluids that come out of some of these recipes, that's just kind of a pain to maintain, especially when you're initially setting up a factory, this is the way to go. The fluid sync will do the job for you, and you can just say goodbye to all of those worries, at least until you're ready to deal with them. I also want to mention Aquila's special containers. This gives you a variety of additional storage options, which can be really useful, especially for ones where you need more inputs or outputs, or you just need more slots. So for instance, there's monstrous storage. Look at this beast. This thing is huge, and you can fit so many items into it. This is a wonderful addition, and it has 8 inputs and 8 outputs. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing to use for mass storage. Or if you want something a little bit more rustic, here's a wooden big industrial storage container. This might go with your build for whatever you're doing. There's also these other lovely ones that I use a lot, the double and triple wall ones, because they fit really, really nicely and give you an easy way of getting 2 inputs in and 2 inputs out, or 3 in, 3 out, depending on what you're using, in a nice little space, and I like the look of this better than the industrial ones. Alright, so now I get to talk about 2 of my other favorite mods that are not available yet, but are just ones that I am just waiting to be released. These are really, really big ones for me. Number 1 is Refined Power. I have used this, I think, in every playthrough of every series that I have done since I started this channel. It is amazing. Refined Power expands dramatically the amount of options that you have for powering your bases. It adds solar, it adds wind, it adds water power, all of these sustainable options that are not in the base game. Now, I know that the actual Coffee Stain Studios has said that they will never add those into the game because they consider them to be cheaty, although they did just add this giant alien machine that basically generates free power for you without you having to do anything, so that's not cheaty for some reason, but solar is cheaty, but hey, it's their game. They can put whatever cheaty stuff they want or not want into it. No big deal either way. But this will give you solar power and all these other things. The other thing that Refined Power adds that is an absolute must for me is modular power machines. It basically gives you a basic platform that you can then add on a burner and a turbine that you can upgrade to higher levels. So your efficiency gets better as you upgrade them. It's really, really nice. It also makes it really, really easy to swap out from coal to oil or to nuclear as you progress through the game. You're still powering those turbines and you don't have to rearrange your entire infrastructure. You just need to upgrade the machines. It also just looks really, really great. Those CO2 towers and smokestacks and things that they add to the game are just gorgeous, and I just use them for building purposes. You can check those out in my Satisfactory Plus playthrough where I use those extensively. I also want to mention the teleporters mod. Now, this has not been updated yet either. They said that they're still going to plan on releasing this, even though there are teleporters in the base game. The main reason why I like teleporters as the mod and not the base game teleporters is they're a lot cheaper to build and a lot easier to manage. You can do teleporters that go to a variety of different locations, not just to one location, and they just look really, really neat. And again, you can unlock them relatively early in the game, I think in tier 6. So it makes it really, really nice and helps you get around your map a lot quicker in a way that isn't very cheaty, but only a little cheaty. So check out the teleporters mod when that's released. Last, as an honorable mention for content upgrades, I have to mention Satisfactory Plus. This is another Curium mod. It's actually a collection of mods bundled together to greatly extend the amount of content that is in Satisfactory. So it's pretty similar to Crestorio 2, I would say, maybe, if you've played Factorio. It basically adds all of these additional intermediate products and things that you have to create. So instead of just making iron, you have to crush a different ore, and that ground up eventually becomes bits of powder that you then smelt to make iron. And then later you can put it into smelters that actually make hot molten iron that you have to deal with and then cool off and turn into other ingredients. It is ridiculously good. It is an astonishingly well-designed pack with some amazing custom models, but I also have to warn you all, folks, this is the mod that I called the most annoying mod I have ever played. You can check out that series. I didn't really make it very far in playing through the Satisfactory Plus mod because there's just a lot of content that is very fidgety and it's a big grind even to get basic power production up and running. I'm looking at you, Biofuel. Oh yes, lots of fond memories of that, but still definitely worth checking out. It is an epic, epic adventure and dramatically increases the amount of content in the base game. So once you play through Satisfactory once, make sure to give Satisfactory Plus a try when they update that mod. Alright, let's talk about the mods that are especially designed for my fellow content creators, but anyone can use them as well. First and foremost, let's talk about Ficsit Cam. Ficsit Cam works very similar to photo mode, except for you can set a time lapse for how this camera is going to move through the world as you're playing. So you can use this to get really nice and elegant fly-throughs, build paths, and really show off your world in an interesting way. It has a pretty steep learning curve, I'd say, but once you get the hang of it, this can be really nice for building really interesting fly-throughs and other similar time-lapse sort of content. Alright, and coming up on the end here, a really important mod for anybody that's trying to do interesting looking bases and make them very well lit. This is going to be SkyUI. This allows you to just select the time of day at any point in the game that you want it to be. If you want it to be nighttime, you can make it nighttime, just like that. And this can really help with when you're recording videos if you want everything to be brightly lit so that you know that it is the daytime and everything is going to look all pretty and you can see what you're trying to build. I was using that during the recording of this video, for instance, so that it wasn't nighttime when I was trying to set things up. Alternatively, if you don't really care about day-night cycle at all, another option to look at is always daytime, another Aquila mod. That one just makes it noon basically all of the time. So that's another one to look at, but sometimes I do want to know what my factories look like at night, and in those cases I will use SkyUI instead. So check that one out. Alright friends, that about wraps it up for this episode. I think I've covered most of the mods that I think are just absolutely important that everybody should know about, some of my all-time favorite mods. But if you think that there's one that I missed, please do let me know in the comments below, or better yet, come on by the Discord and tell me all about it. I'm really always eager to learn about other mods that people are using that they think really enhance the game. Also, if you like the content I'm producing here, if this was in any way helpful to you, I'd really appreciate it if you take a second and click that like button just below here, or even consider subscribing to the channel if this is the sort of content that is your vibe. Most of the time, I'm not doing overviews, to be fair. I am mostly doing playthroughs of Minecraft and Satisfactory, as I mentioned, so there isn't a lot of this highlights content so much, but I will give you a whole bunch of really great building tips and interesting things to do with mods if you watch my channel. So please do consider subscribing and coming back for the next episode. But either way, thanks again for watching. Bye friends!